Washington state Democrats are working overtime this year to pass laws and executive orders to strengthen Washington as a sovereign state and do everything that they can do to defy the Trump agenda. Today, I'm going to tell you about a new bill that was dropped last week that further advances this agenda for Washington state. Hey, everybody, I'm Julie Barrett, founder of Conservative Ladies of America and Conservative Ladies of Washington, and I am back with another bill of the day for Washington state. Last week, while I happened to be on vacation, Washington Democrats passed a bunch of new bad bills, but one of them in particular is, particularly bad. This is Senate Bill 5688, and it is the Washington Sovereignty Act. This bill is an act relating to acknowledging Washington state's constitutional rights, including state sovereignty as guaranteed by the United States Constitution and Washington Constitution, to ensure that no state resources are expended enforcing any federal order that violates the United States Constitution, Washington Constitution, or judicial precedent. And it adds a few new sections to RCW 43.01. So let's take a look at the new sections that it's adding. So in the first new section, it adds a protection from unconstitutional action. This legislation declares that it is the responsibility of Washington state to protect citizens from unconstitutional actions by both federal and state entities. It specifically targets federal executive orders that don't align with constitutional standards or legal precedents. So as you can see right out of the gate, this is a direct response to the Trump administration, particularly Trump's executive orders, which Bob Ferguson, governor of Washington, has been talking about since the election in November that he would fight back. He even had a committee before he took office that was designed to look at all the ways that they were going to push back against the Trump administration. So here, right out of the gate, we have this conflict with Washington state and federal executive orders. Okay, the next section is non-enforcement of unconstitutional orders. So this says that no official or employee of the state, its political subdivisions, or state-related services providers, including members of the National Guard or state defense forces, are required or authorized to enforce any federal executive order deemed unconstitutional. Again, we're seeing that pushback, and I've told you guys about this in previous bill of the day with some of the other legislation that we've already seen this session, which I'm going to tie together for you after I tell you about this bill. The next new section is reimbursement for costs. So if state or local agencies, including law enforcement or emergency services, incur costs while protecting citizens' First Amendment rights, to protest against such federal orders, they are allowed to seek reimbursement by submitting an invoice to the U.S. Department of the Treasury. And then the last new section is to declare this an emergency, which means that the bill would take effect immediately upon signing by the governor. As I've said before about these emergency clauses on bills, it also means that the bill cannot be subject to a referendum by the citizens of Washington state. So this is another really dangerous policy that really sets a separation between Washington and the rest of the country. And Washington isn't alone. There are several other blue states, Oregon, Minnesota, Colorado. These states are working hard to oppose the Trump agenda. And not just with legislation, but also with governors who are doing executive orders. For instance, Bob Ferguson did an executive order regarding immigration back at the end of January, where he created kind of a task force, a division in the Department of Children, Youth, and Families that would help illegal immigrants and help protect them from any of the deportation efforts of the Trump administration. In the Attorney General's office, Nick Brown in Washington has also already filed several lawsuits against Trump executive orders. So this piece of legislation is just another layer to all the work that Washington Democrats are doing to really build that blue state firewall against the Trump administration and the federal government. Now, let's talk about how this particular bill ties into a couple other bills that I've previously told you about in other videos. So let's start with House Bill 1321. House Bill 1321 relates to the governor having control over militias from out of state and being able to prohibit them from coming into the state of Washington. I believe that this is specifically targeted to the National Guard and any attempts of the federal government to come in and enforce any of the immigration policies or things like that, that this would give the Washington state governor the ability to say, no, they can't come into our state, which with a lot of these federal actions, they do need the state officials to cooperate with them and to allow them to come into the state. So this gives the governor a really broad authority to reject these out-of-state militias from coming in, maybe even to have federal enforcement along the northern border. So this is a really dangerous policy, and that's House Bill 1321. Now, this bill has already been through committee, passed out of committee, and it is waiting in the Rules Committee in the House. And what that means is that this bill could get a vote of the full House floor at any time. So I anticipate that we're going to see House Bill 1321 get a vote in the House this week. After it gets passed through the House, then it will go over to the Senate and it will repeat the process in the Senate. So once is scheduled for public hearing, citizens will again have the opportunity to sign in opposed to this bill. I know the likelihood of your voice changing anything is about this big, maybe even less than that big. But the way I feel about these things is if I have the opportunity to speak up about something, even if I know it's not going to make a difference, I want to use my voice, oppose something while I have the opportunity. So I encourage you, even though you feel like the effort is futile, please do it anyway. Now, the third bill that kind of ties into all of this stuff is Senate Bill 5632. And I told you guys about this bill in a video of the day I did about a week ago before I went on vacation. What this bill does is it strengthens Washington's SHIELD Act. The SHIELD Act was passed in 2023. It was House Bill 1469. Basically, what this bill does is it makes Washington a sanctuary state for what they call protected healthcare services, which is abortion and so-called gender affirming care for minor children. It's essentially a transgender trafficking bill, an abortion trafficking bill. It allows kids to come from other states, and the providers, the people that bring them there, the people that perform the services, the host homes where they might stay with, none of these people can be prosecuted by the home state where these kids come from. So if a kid goes from Florida to Washington and is taken with someone who's not their parent without their parents' consent, the parents and the law enforcement and the government of their home state of Florida would have no legal recourse with Washington state, because Washington state government is going to protect all of these people from the laws of the other state. So what Senate Bill 5632 does is it strengthens that, and it declares that it is against Washington's policy to enforce laws from other states that would penalize activities related to protected healthcare services that are legal in Washington. It would require that state officials, law enforcement, and the courts would be prohibited from aiding the arrest or enforcement of such out-of-state laws regarding these services. And finally, state entities may not cooperate with or provide information to out-of-state or federal agencies for the enforcement of laws contrary to Washington's policy on protected healthcare. So as you see with all three of these bills, they are building up a blue state firewall. They are insulating Washington from the policies of other states and the federal government that seek to protect children, especially from these harmful, often irreversible procedures and services, and from being taken from their home state, from their families to get these dangerous services. There are a number of other bills, including several that are related to immigration and helping illegal immigrants and really preventing from the federal government being able to do any illegal immigration enforcement. So this is really a dangerous precedent that Washington is setting. And there's, like I said, they're not alone. There are other blue states that are doing this. but it is definitely a theme that I'm seeing throughout this legislative session, and it's something that Washington citizens should be very concerned about. So I'm going to link all of the information details so you can go look at these bills more in depth for yourself. You can actually sign up to track them as they make progress throughout the legislature. You can make your voice heard. Of course, on our Substack, we will be pushing out calls to action every time one of these bills has a hearing or has a way for citizens to take action and make your voice heard. So I hope that you will continue to do that. Please make sure that you are subscribed to our channel. Make sure you turn those notifications on because, as I say every time, a lot of our video content will be time sensitive and you won't want to miss the ability to take action. Please also share this video with other citizens, not just in Washington, but beyond, because parents across the United States need to know about blue states that are doing these really dangerous laws for children so that they can protect their families accordingly. Now, one last thing before I go, I put up a poll on our YouTube channel not long ago asking if you guys wanted to have a live stream every now and then and what frequency. And overwhelmingly, the result was a weekly live stream. So this Thursday, February 13th, I will be kicking off our first weekly live stream. It's going to be Womansplaining Live with Julie Barrett. That is a spinoff of my audio podcast, Womansplaining. The live stream will start at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern every Thursday. It will be a quick 30-minute live stream. The first 20 minutes, I will tell you about different policies that you need to be aware of, things that are advancing, new bills that may have popped up, just kind of a quick and dirty rapid fire of policies you need to know about. Some of our team, our CLW team and our CLA team will join me on these live streams as well to tell you about different legislation. And then the last 10 minutes of the live stream will be Q&A from the live chat. So be sure to join us because I'll be taking your questions from the live chat. It'll be a chance for us to actually engage as well. So thank you for watching. Thanks for your support of our work and our channel. And I look forward to chatting with you again next time.